Shalom Akim, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Wakwakadash, Barakatam, to the elders and apostles of Great Stone who rule well, and the Akim doing the work of your best, Shemashai, in sincerity and in truth, with all diligence of mind. As we approach these last days, when we're going to be experiencing Jacob's trouble, it's all part of prophecies that these things must take place, okay? And that is Brother Nash DC camp. So to understand what's going on in Venezuela, the elite need to be in total control. So they always need to have a strategy to make things happen. They got the agents popped up in all governments on the face of the earth, So it's something you have to look forward to, man. More turmoil, more rumors of wars, more chaotic events, but in different fields, whether it's in healthcare, education, politics, commerce, the elites, they want to be in control, and they will go to any extent to make sure that it is that way. And that's exactly what you see in Venezuela. They want to have a strong grip on the nation's institutions. That's why they have agents, and just to make things happen, to shake things up their way. They also have a tool of sanctions to prevent countries and corporations and people from engaging in certain legal activities. All right, so for them to have access, they need to go out long, but that's not a guarantee. All right, so I play the video and I get some precepts.
The US president is not ruling out possible military action over the political crisis in Venezuela. Donald Trump has recognized opposition leader Juan Guaido as the country's interim president. 16 people have reportedly been killed in protests against the country's chief, Nicolas Maduro.
Yeah, so very soon, this is exactly what will be happening on the streets of America, because this so-called government shutdown was just a test run to see what the people will have to do, So I'm twisting strategy to get the pulse of the people, the pulse of the politicians, the so-called folks working in uniform for the government, whether they're TSA, FBI, PAC police, Coast Guard, whatever branch that gets that got affected. It's all the so-called idea of game theory. So that's exactly what you're gonna be seeing these last days, man. More protests. You still got the protests in France. You got protests in Greece. Regarding certain situations. One of them is the case of Macedonia trying to change the name of their country to a different name. You still have the so-called sentiment in Spain, where the folks in the Catalan area, they still want to leave, but, the elite's not going to let that happen, all right? But at the end of the day, man, it's all Esau's dream to have control over the resources of the earth according to the blessings that he got, from Isaac, who was Yahweh Shine, the reincarnation. So don't be surprised, man. It gets tense, and the Russians already talked about that America should, take a step back, and you have Turkey doing the same thing too, backing up Venezuela, but it's not gonna yield much, man, based on man's intentions. But it's always gonna be based on the Lord Yahweh Shemashah's intentions. Whatever the Lord says is gonna happen, is gonna happen. So I put the video some more and I got the precepts.
President Trump made the announcement this afternoon, saying that Washington has recognized Juan Guaido as the interim president of Venezuela and called for new elections. As the situation escalates, the Trump administration isn't ruling out any course of action.
Are you considering a military option for Venezuela?
We're not considering anything, but all options are on the table.
Does that mean you're...
Yep, so that's exactly what you need to be aware of, man. You have the branches of the army. You got their flags in the background. You have, we'll say the military. So you have army, you got marine, you got navy, you got air force, coast guard, whatever. So the reporters asking questions. Is there going to be any military intervention? See on the table. Trump says, is considering all options. You could tell, he's irritated by the manner of questions he keeps getting. All right. So I get some precepts here. I'll keep it quick to the point. So this is the book of Mark, chapter 13, verse 7. It says, and when ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, be ye not troubled, for such things must needs be, but the end shall not be yet. Alright, so it's all according to prophecy, man. You got a war still going on in Syria, the war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq didn't end, Libya. So Esau has all his troops across the face of the earth, trying to maintain control, trying to get people in line with his agenda for the New World Order. All right, so it's not going to be a walk in the park, since the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai has poured out the spirit of rebellion upon the people that are going to pick up arms against Esau's imperial army. All right, so it's going to be rough. All right, and a lot of people don't understand, man, that the Holy Scriptures are real. You can't ignore them. They are all pure words, the words of Yahweh Shema Shai. All right. So you're going to look at the book of Sirach, chapter 31. All right. The whole chapter is good. I'm just going to stick with a few points. So in verse 1 it says, watching for riches consumeth the flesh, and the care thereof driveth away sleep. So the elites, man, they need to have control over the resources of all these countries that are blessed, that have reserves and reserves of oils, coal, bitumen, iron ore, silver, phosphate, coltan, timber, lands, even the land too, the land that are fruitful. Esau also wants that, just like what it did in South America, North America, Southeast Asia, Africa. He wants the best of the best, and is willing to go to war for that. All right. So Scripture talks about he's going to lose sleep, because he's not satisfied with what he has. All right. Then verse 2 says, watching care will not let a man slumber, as a sore disease breaketh sleep. All right. So that's exactly what Esau's mindset is all about, man. He can't get no rest unless he's in control. Everything's got to be under his control, all right. And then if you look at verse 5, it says, he that loveth gold shall not be justified, and he that followeth corruption shall have enough thereof. All right. Gold had been the ruin of many, and their destruction was present. So the destruction of the Israelites on its way, it's going to happen because of the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai. The scripture talks about, for the elect's sake, these days of tribulation shall be shortened, and the elites will not have their way, since the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai will disappoint the enterprise. The enterprise is to, smack down all these countries and bring them under their control. That's the end goal. Control, control, control. Control them with the army, control them with the RFID chip, through vain philosophy, control them through sanctions. So that's how the Lord Yabashim Shai is setting up the elites of Esau for failure.
Considering those
Which is all options, always. All options are on the table.
Nicolas Maduro has rejected Trump's declaration and responded by announcing the expulsion of all U.S. diplomats from the country.
Complying with my role in the oath I took before our people to respect and make others respect the independence, sovereignty, and peace of the Republic, I've decided to break diplomatic and political ties with the imperialist government of the United States.
Yep, so you could tell, man, Jake is still drinking that wine of sovereignty, democracy, and all that stuff. That's why these nations are nuts, man. Especially our own people. They're not calling on the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai to bless their endeavors in righteousness. Jake is, mingled up with all these philosophies of Esau. Jake want to do what Esau is doing, so he too could appear to be prosperous. That's not the way the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai ordained us to be. But hey, but for the truth's sake, it's gonna happen. They're gonna be used as an example. And then you have the Russians and the Turks talking about, you gotta respect democracy. Further putting Jake in that zombie state of mind. They're not talking about, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans being the Israelites that the Bible speaks of.
The military has announced it's standing by Maduro and will not recognize Guaido as president. Of course, the key question here is who is the actual president? Maduro was inaugurated for a second term earlier this month after he won in what independent observers called a clean election. Guaido was elected to Congress but didn't even run in the presidential election. So beyond this decree from Washington, Guaido has no real mandate to be the leader of Venezuela.
So that's, all this that you're seeing here is just an image of the beast, man. This democracy madness. Speaker of the House, General Assembly, senators and congressmen, attorney generals, district attorney, police chiefs, and this and that. That's all Esau's doctrine, man. It's not based on the scriptures of Yahweh Shema Shai. If it's based on the Lord's word, you wouldn't have all this madness. Women sitting in places of authority. The Lord is not with that. So just tell him, man, Jacob drunk of that cup of madness that Esau's pushing upon the face of the earth.
Supporters of the government and the opposition have taken to the streets en masse. Trump administration officials are insisting that recognizing Guaido is the president's decision and his alone, but Senator Marco Rubio actually announced Guaido's recognition ahead of Trump. Rubio is demanding American diplomats stay in Venezuela and calling on the State Department to expel Maduro's diplomats from the U.S. and replace them with Guaido's.
So that's exactly what's going on, man. So you have Jakes that are serving Esau's government structure here in Babylon. Going along with Esau's agenda, the elite's agenda, So you have Marco Rubio, senator from Florida, saying the same thing, man, that Trump is saying. He's recognizing the other Jake, the head of the General Assembly, as the acting president. So that's madness, man, So the scripture talks about, those that join hand with the enemies of the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai, they're gonna get their just reward. Alright. So I get one more precept here. So it's Proverbs chapter 20, verse 17. It says, bread of deceit is sweet to a man, but afterwards his mouth shall be filled with gravel. So that's exactly the reward that the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai is going to bring upon this elite, man. When they taken into captivity, it's gonna be a big surprise. They hear the men of the Lord saying this day in, day out on the internet, on the highways and byways. But at the end of the day, man, hey, all glory and power be to Yahweh Hashem Shai. So the Hebrew word for bread in that scripture is lacham, you know, but then it says bread of deceit, and the word for deceit in the Hebrew is shakwar. All right, shakwar. So it says lie, deception, disappointment, falsehood. All right, it says deception, what deceives or disappoints or betrays one. Deceit, fraud, wrong, fraudulently, wrongfully, falsehood, injurious in testimony. So that's exactly what you're seeing here, man. All types of false testimonies have to be put forth, by Esau's think tanks and his minions to get the results they want, to destabilize the country. Once they've had their agents in place, and then they have all these protesters on the streets, and then you start having the sanctions, and then you start having more people coming out speaking up against the government of Venezuela so they could get a cut of the pie. The EU is also in on it, so it's not a big surprise.
So far, we've seen Canada and Washington's regional allies in Colombia, Brazil, Ecuador, Peru, and Costa Rica all follow Trump's lead in recognizing Guaido. On the other hand, Mexico, Bolivia, and Cuba are sticking with Maduro.
Meantime, the European Union has thrown its support behind Venezuela's opposition-led National Assembly and called for fresh elections. The EU's foreign policy chief and the European Council president both gave statements.
The EU strongly calls for the start of an immediate political process leading to free and credible elections in conformity with the constitutional order. The EU fully supports the National Assembly as the democratically elected institution whose powers need to be restored.
That's how messed up it is, man. Because you understand, man, all these elections cost money, time, so it's all a dog and pony show. Because at the end of the day, man, they still have to participate in Esau's economic system. And when a country wants to fight for independence, fight for sovereignty, all of a sudden it becomes a problem. They start having their stock market manipulated. The price of goods and services fluctuates so fast that folks find it hard to keep up.
And respected.
I hope that all of Europe will unite in support of democratic forces in Venezuela. Unlike Maduro, the Parliamentary Assembly, including Juan Guaido, have a democratic mandate from Venezuelan citizens.
You can imagine. So, would they want to accept this in their own country? That's what Esau likes to do, man. Like to set up coup and madness in all these third world countries. But when it comes to his own countries, his own the nations in the EU, would he like to do such a thing? So that's how messed up Esau is, man. So the Lord about Shema Shai is just exposing these Edomites as hypocrites. They want to talk about democracy. It's good for the poor man, But when it comes for the poor man to have his fair share, of what he needs to move on to the next level, it becomes a problem.
Former U.S. diplomat Jim Jatras thinks that Trump's decision won't help to bring peace to Venezuela.
I think it's quite likely that Trump's decision will make Venezuela's problems much worse. Look, even if this goes very smoothly, that there's some kind of regime change or even a coup that replaces the Maduro government, that's not going to bring social peace. We've got a country in a crisis with people lined up on one side, including not only President Maduro and the court, but on the other side, the National Assembly. If the military splits or the police, we could have very serious violence in this country. That is not a good thing. It's in many ways reminiscent of the situation in Ukraine in 2014. In terms of the United States getting involved in this, how would we like it if other countries had recognized Hillary Clinton as the legitimate president in 2016 because she had more votes, or recognized Nancy Pelosi as the real leader of America because it's more democratic somehow?
Yeah, so that's all smoke and mirrors. You know, all these so-called leaders they have here in Babylon and Congress, man, they're all bought and paid for. So it doesn't matter who gets voted in or voted out. They're all the same, achieving the same agenda. So I get one last precept. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 50, and then go to verse 20. Let's just start from 19. It says, Thou givest thy mouth to evil, and thy tongue frameth deceit. All right, so the elites have to cook up all these false narratives, man, to be on top, man, to maintain their power, to maintain control. And then verse 20 says, Thou sittest and speakest against thy brother, thou slanderest thy own mother's son. So this turmoil, this so-called competition, these episodes of bad blood between the nation of Esau, represented by America, and the EU, and you know, and Jacob being the so-called South American countries, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans spread out throughout the four corners of the earth. That tension's always gonna be there, man. So the elites understand, man, that they don't want Jacob to be united. They don't want the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans to be united in the spirit of Yahweh Shema Shai. They don't even want them to be united, even where they're, in a zombie state of mind, trying to fend for themselves, have a thriving economy that's independent of the elites, you know, grip. They don't want that. It's always about control. So they gotta do everything they need to do to keep Jake in captivity. That's why the Lord has Yahweh Shai waiting patiently. All right. So I say, Ka halal Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem Kwakwadash, and double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Stone rule well. And then you understand, man, if you look further at Psalm chapter 50, verse 21 says, These things hast thou done, and I kept silent. Thou thoughtest that I was altogether as one as thyself, but I will reprove thee and set them in order before thine eyes. So the Lord Yahweh Shemashah is going to fix this situation, man. And that's why you also have that MAGA incident at the Lincoln Memorial. So the Lord is going to let His word flourish upon the face of the earth. And then you're going to see the end of these Edomites, man. The end of their rulership is going to happen. They're going to go out violently, according to the words of Yahweh Shema Shai. So it's going to be beautiful. Akim shouldn't be, stressed out. You should be glad that this is the last days, and that things need to happen according to the will of Yahweh Shema Shai. And that's beautiful. It's beautiful. Your paw. Kotawab, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Kwakadash, and to the elders and apostles of Gilpin Stone who do well. So thank you for sharing this knowledge of Yahweh Shema Shai. It must go on, man, till the end of this Edomite rulership. And I say Shalom.